Deputy Tommy Broughan.
Thanks, Cahir.
40 seconds.
Just first of all, to obviously wish the Minister well, and to thank you just for meeting the road safety groups, some very important road safety groups in recent weeks, and committing, I think, to a programme of action in that area. On the question before us, which of course is Metro North, as you know, Minister, the north side of Dublin and Fingal and the west side of Dublin, we were totally shafted in the planning and construction of the Lewis. There was to be a north side line. It never happened. Here we are 15, 20 years later, trying to get the whole project back on track. Now we're being told we had a pre-election promise from Fine Gael last September. Metro North was going to happen, and now we're told it'll be sort of 2025, 26. A lot of things will happen by 2026. So I just want to know, what are you doing in 2016 to get Metro North, a fixed line connection between O'Connell Street and Swords and the airport underway?
Thank you, Deputy Broughan. Minister, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Deputy Broughan, and thank you for your remarks about meeting the South Road Safety Group, which I know whose cause I know you championed for so long, and we had a very constructive discussion with them, and they were a group who've done a huge amount of homework and have a lot to offer in this particular area through tragic personal experience, I know, but all the same it is something which may prevent accidents of the sort they have suffered happening again. In answer to your question about the Metro North, the programme for government includes a commitment to proceed with the new Metro North project, and funding is provided in the capital plan Building on Recovery, Infrastructure and Capital Investment 2016 to 2021 to facilitate construction of the link commencing in 2021 with a view to delivery by 2026 to 2027. The funding constraints that existed when the capital plan was being developed and which continue to exist mean that we are not in a position to deliver all that is required immediately. The first priority has to be ensuring that we maintain our existing transport infrastructure at what is termed steady-state levels, so that it remains safe and fit for purpose after a significant period of underinvestment during the financial crisis. The funding that is being provided in the capital plan for public transport investment will see us reach steady-state funding levels by 2020. In addition, funding is provided to commence critical transport projects such as new Metro North to meet growing demand. The National Transport Authority, NTA, and Transport Infrastructure Ireland, TII, have commenced preparatory work on planning and design of new Metro North, and a dedicated project steering group has been established. In the meantime, the NTA has been asked to keep the interim public transport requirements of the Swords Airport corridor over the next 10 years under review, with a view to ensuring adequate capacity to meet demand and to address constraints arising along the corridor. In the event that additional funding becomes available in the next few years, the groundwork that is currently being done will position us to progress the project in line with available funding.
All of those of us who made submissions to the national consultation by the NTA in January 2015 will be very disappointed with your response. I mean, in the programme for government, there's only literally a line, a throwaway line. In fact, there's very little about transport, generally speaking. So all your long negotiations with Fine Gael, I'm not sure what you were trying to achieve. But I mean, we got a commitment from Minister Donoghue that we would have a new Metro North line with 14 stops, with 30 trams an hour, with trams 60 metres long, carrying 30 million passengers. The cost was put at 2.4 billion. And now, you know, what are you telling us in relation to the delivery of this? For example, when will you get a report from the dedicated steering group? What kind of funding are you going to spend on the project this year and the forthcoming years? I think a lot of people on all sides of the House, on the north side of Dublin, indeed the whole of the Dublin region, are very much committed to this. Fingal County Manager, for example, Mr. Paul Reid and the Fingal Council is very committed. I think Dublin City is committed, and we want to see some action. And I just wondered, what kind of consultations have you had yourself in relation to the various proposals that were made in the public consultation in January of 2015? For example, have you met distinguished transport engineers such as Mr. Cormac Rabbit, who advocated very strongly that we should proceed with the Spanish Spanish system, with the Madrid system, with a much lower cost type development, but which would deliver much more quickly than 2026, 2030. Like we're getting into, a lot of us may not be in this house in 2026 and so on and so forth. I mean, it's way down the line, Minister. You need to give us something more concrete.
You're eating into your second supplementary. Minister.
I'd like to thank Deputy Broughan for his contribution. Let me say it has to be approached on an available money basis. And as I think I said in my earlier response, we only have a certain amount of money to keep us in the transport, in the public transport sphere, in a healthy public transport financial sphere until 2020, to keep it in a steady state in a steady state condition. In other words, we will not be able to afford to spend money on more than design and planning on the Metro North until 2020. And I think we've made that absolutely plain. But if, and I said it, and I think the response was given there in my earlier reply, I say, in the event that additional funding becomes available in the next few years, the groundwork that is currently being done will position us to progress the project in line with available funding. I suppose I'm very hopeful that we may be able to advance this project a bit. But it would all depend on available funding. And the government realises the problems, particularly in the area between Stephen Green's and Swords and the airport and other areas in North Dublin, and the need to meet the demand from the travelling public there. And we have, of course, instructed the necessary authorities to provide the necessary public transport in the interim. But I cannot make a promise here today that Metro North will be advanced, because the funding is simply not there. But if the funding becomes available, you have a pledge from the government that this will be considered for an early consideration.
Thank you, Minister.